Hi there, I'm Ken Thompson, and I want to use this video to give you a very short introduction to my new book, A Systematic Guide to Collaboration and Competition Within Organizations. The subtitle of the book is How Understanding the Interplay of Collaboration and Competition Can Actually Maximize Your Business Performance. So the classic model of business and leadership is really shown here. You're either doing collaborative activities such as teamwork, or you're doing competitive activities where you're bidding against other people, typically outside your organization, but sometimes inside your organization. The premise of the book is this is not the whole picture. There's two other modes of operation that are very present in organizations, but they're the elephants in the room. They're not generally talked about. The first one I call edgy collaboration. So you are collaborating, but there's a little bit of competitiveness about it. And secondly, eco-competition, where you are competing, but you're competing in a collaborative way. So let's have a look at these in a bit more detail. Edgy collaboration. The idea here is you may well be on a team, but nobody wants to be the weakest link in that team. And I give lots of examples from sport and other places where people have to compete to get onto teams and to stay on the teams. So it's teamwork, but it's got a competitive element to it as well. That's why we call it edgy. And I argue here, if you need to look at role models for leading these kind of teams, the absolute best place to look is the world's top sports coaches. And I give lots of examples in the book of people like Sir Alex Ferguson as a great example of somebody to look to if you've got to lead this team. The big challenge in a team like this is keeping the stars, but also keeping everybody else happy at the same time. I identify in the book 7 key skills for edgy collaboration if you want to lead such a team. First of all, you've got to negotiate the space to succeed. You'll need time to build the kind of team you want. These teams don't form overnight. You need to attract winning talent. You'll need to deal with stars and what I call mercenaries, people who are really only in it for the money. At the same time, you need to make everybody feel indispensable. There will be conflict in a team like this, and you need to manage it. You need to expertly use recognition, because sometimes you won't be able to do this purely through money. And at some point, you'll be deciding you need to offload some people. For example, the mercenaries who held you to ransom in this project, you don't necessarily want them doing that on every project. So that's edgy collaboration. The second area is eco-competition. The big idea here is collaboration with the enemy. And here you need to look for leadership for the great political leaders. The likes of Nelson Mandela would be a really good example in South Africa. But the Northern Ireland peace process with David Trimble and John Hume, leaders who have reached across the divide. The big challenge here, it's making an unpopular alliance work. The people you're trying to alliance with may not want it, and your own base camp and community may not want it either. But you've seen that if you don't do it, the future is not going to be as you want it. The status quo is not sustainable. The 7 key skills: seeing this future that maybe others don't yet see, rejecting the status quo of doing it by yourself, creating a new story about what the future could look like, and socializing the unthinkable. This idea of reaching across the divide for help for somebody who would have been considered an enemy or a competitor. Then you need to reach out to these people. You might have to rely strongly on personal relationships to get the thing going, knowing that the rest of your community will not come behind you, maybe initially, and you'll have to hold the fort and make it work until the reinforcements arrive. So that's eco-competition. So the book describes how to be an eco-competition or an edgy collaboration leader, and gives you role models and key skill areas. The other thing in the book is if you're managing one of these projects or teams, you need some different leadership practices. And we've got what I call the Interplay board. So at the early stage, what I call the preparation, you're working out, do I want to play this game? What sort of team do I need? In the planning stage, what's the dynamics here? What's possible between collaboration and competition? What are the risks and what are the rewards? And when you've identified that, you use scorecarding to see how you would know if you were being successful. You go into the performance phase. The performance phase is 4 critical practices. Managing reputation, absolutely vital. Making and maintaining alliances, negotiating skills, and decision making. And then you constantly tweak it as you move along and perfect it. So that's the Interplay board. The other thing then, I argue in the book, that these skills are somewhat counterintuitive. So the best way to learn them is through experiential learning and scenarios and simulation games. And I introduced 3 little simulations just for the whole concept of interplay. The first one I call Compete. 4 coffee shops competing for customers on the same high street. So it's commercial competition, but the potential for collaboration, because you all share the high street. And what can you do to get people to come to your high street that all 4 of you are based on? Playoff is 4 soccer teams in a Super League. It's strategic competition. You want to win, but actually in this game you can match fix. You can arrange results with another team to get you both into a good position and then break the partnership to win later. So it's strategic competition with collaboration potential and a lot of fun. The final game is Fusion, which is 4 departments who've got to share resources. It's classic edgy collaboration, and it's also known as a sub-optimization problem, which happens a lot in organizations where different departments fixate on their own individual goals, and somehow or other the overall goal of the organization is not met. So that's a quick introduction to the book, A Systematic Guide to Collaboration and Competition Within Organizations, and it's available on Amazon.